Your restlessness is not a mistake. It's a call from something deeper. Stop right now and do not treat this as another piece of spiritual trivia, because what I am about to reveal changes how you understand your soul, your pattern, and the hidden structure of awakening itself. I am not asking you to be curious. I am warning you that the Pleroma is not just a word from old mystical language. It is a map, and if you know how to read it, you may finally understand why certain truths hit you harder than others, why some teachings feel ancient inside you, and why your spirit keeps reacting as if it remembers something your mind never learned. Do not scroll past this, because in just a moment I am going to show you the 7 levels of the Pleroma and how each level reveals a different kind of inner identity. This is not about fantasy. It is about recognition. Some people hear these words and feel nothing. Others feel a strange pressure behind the eyes, a pull in the chest, a sudden silence in the mind. That reaction matters. It may be the first sign that your soul already knows where it comes from. Stay with me, because this is not a random hierarchy and it is not a game of labels. The 7 levels describe movement, from confusion into pattern, from fragmentation into wholeness, from echo into origin. If you understand where you are standing in that ascent, you stop living as if your restlessness is a mistake, and start seeing it as evidence that something deeper is trying to return. Before we go deeper, let me give you one practical tool that many people overlook. If you want to support mental change with a simple structure, affirmations can help organize the state you bring into the day. Many actors and legends use them, not because words are magic on their own, but because repeated intention shapes attention. If you want to make your own in a simple way, you can visit the link in the description. Take advantage of it while it is available. People hear the word Pleroma and imagine distance, abstraction, or old theology with no living relevance. But the Pleroma is not empty. It is fullness. It is the hidden totality behind appearance, the complete field from which fragments fall and to which fragments long to return. When you feel that life is somehow larger than the version you were taught, that is not imagination. That is memory pressing against the limits of ordinary identity. The 7 levels are not simply 7 floors in a cosmic building. They are 7 modes of consciousness, 7 ways the soul can relate to truth, and 7 stages of separation or return. Some people live most of their lives near the surface, where the world is only material, only urgent, only obvious. Others sense depth but cannot yet name it. Others begin to hear the call of the Pleroma in moments of stillness, grief, intuition, or sudden inner knowing. And this is why the test matters. Not because you need to rank yourself, but because different levels speak differently, suffer differently, and wake differently. If you can identify your level, you can identify your next step. If you can identify your next step, you stop mistaking spiritual hunger for failure. Most people think the soul is one fixed thing. It is not. It is a journey through layers of remembrance, and the first layer begins where the mind is still arguing with its own longing. At the first level, the soul lives almost entirely at the surface of life. This is the level of reaction, survival, distraction, and external approval. A person here may be intelligent, successful, even outwardly calm, but inwardly they are still being tossed by every opinion, every fear, every social current. They confuse movement with meaning. If this is where you are, you may notice that your attention is scattered. You are pulled by noise. You crave certainty, but avoid stillness. You can feel that something is missing, but you keep trying to fill it with activity, images, or validation. The surface soul does not yet trust the unseen. It trusts only what can be measured quickly. This level is not shameful. It is simply incomplete. Every soul begins somewhere. The danger is not being here. The danger is deciding this is all there is. Because once a person believes the visible world is the whole world, they stop listening for the voice that asks for more. If your inner life feels restless, if you keep saying, "I should be satisfied, but I am not," then you may be standing here. And that unrest is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that a deeper level is calling. The second level begins when the surface no longer convinces you. You still live in the world, but you begin to notice the world is not enough. You ask why certain patterns repeat. You ask why some people seem to sleep through life while others are haunted by meaning. You begin to suspect that your pain is not random. This level is marked by questions that will not leave you alone. Why do I feel out of place? Why do some truths feel older than language? Why do I know something is wrong even when I cannot prove it? The questioning soul becomes uncomfortable with easy answers. It starts to separate truth from performance. This is also the level where many people feel isolated. You may look around and realize your concerns are not shared by the people closest to you. That can create loneliness, but it can also create clarity. A soul that begins to question cannot stay fully asleep. If you are here, you may be reading symbols everywhere, sensing hidden meaning and synchronicities, and feeling that ordinary life has a second layer just beneath it. You are not imagining that layer. You are beginning to perceive it, and perception is the first wound and the first gift of awakening. At the third level, the soul begins to remember what the mind never formally learned. This is a strange stage, because the remembrance may arrive as a feeling rather than a fact. You encounter a teaching, a symbol, a silence, and something in you says, "Yes, I know this." Not because you studied it, but because it fits a place inside you that was waiting for language. This level often comes with intense sensitivity. Music may move you more deeply. Dreams may become vivid. Old grief may rise without warning. You may feel drawn to ancient wisdom, hidden knowledge, or spiritual language that seems to carry a familiar weight. The remembering soul does not chase novelty. It seeks restoration. Here, the Pleroma stops being an idea and becomes a horizon. You begin to feel that wholeness is real, even if you do not yet live inside it. The gap between what is and what ought to be becomes unbearable in a useful way. It drives transformation. And this is where many people first realize their life has been preparing them for something they could not name. The disappointments, the separations, the quiet ache for truth, all begin to make sense. You were not failing to belong. You were remembering that you belonged elsewhere first. The fourth level is where the soul becomes aware of its own split. This is the level of inner conflict, double vision, and painful honesty. You know the higher path, but another part of you still clings to old habits. You know what is true, but fear, pride, and fatigue still argue. You begin to see that awakening is not only revelation, it is confrontation. At this stage, the soul often feels divided between worlds. One part wants depth, purity, and return. Another part wants comfort, escape, and repetition. You may judge yourself harshly for this split, but the split itself is part of the process. It is what happens when a soul can no longer pretend it is whole while still living fragmented. This level is difficult because it strips away fantasy. You cannot keep calling confusion clarity. You cannot keep calling noise purpose. The divided soul learns that truth demands a cost. It asks for honesty about what is still governing you. But even this is grace, because once the split is visible, healing can begin. What cannot be named cannot be transformed, and the soul that admits its division has already begun to move toward integration. Now let me show you something most people never notice. The 7 levels are not only steps upward, they are also tests of honesty. Each level exposes a different illusion. At the surface, the illusion is that life is only external. At the questioning stage, the illusion is that questions alone are enough. At the remembering stage, the illusion is that recognition has already become embodiment. At the divided stage, the illusion is that conflict means failure. None of that is true. Conflict often means contact. Contact is dangerous to the ego, but necessary for the soul. If you want to support mental change with a simple structure, affirmations can help organize the state you bring into the day. Many actors and legends used them, not because words are magic on their own, but because repeated intention shapes attention. If you want to make your own in a simple way, you can visit the link in the description. Take advantage of it while it is available. What you say to yourself matters because the soul listens. And when the soul listens long enough, it begins to reorganize around the louder truth. The 5th level is the turn toward observation. Here, the soul begins to stand back from its own reactions. without abandoning its humanity. You do not become numb, you become aware. You see your fear before you become it. You see your impulse before you obey it. You see your old story as a story, not as a prison. Your soul is not scattered. It is returning. Space between identity and habit. Space between the wound and the choice. The witnessing soul is no longer swallowed by every emotion that passes through. It learns to remain present while the storm moves. This is where discernment grows. You begin to notice which voices in your mind are old, which desires are borrowed, which fears are inherited, and which longings are genuinely yours. The Pleroma becomes less distant here, because your inner world starts to clear, and clarity is a form of return. If you are here, you may still struggle, but you struggle with awareness. You are no longer completely unconscious of your own machinery. That awareness changes everything. It means the soul is no longer merely being shaped by life. It is beginning to participate in its own formation. At the 6th level, the soul no longer wants fragments. It wants coherence. The integrating soul begins to bring together what was once scattered: thought, feeling, will, memory, and purpose. This is not the absence of pain. It is the refusal to let pain define the whole structure. Here, a person may still move through ordinary life, but they do so with a deeper center. They do not need constant proof. They do not need endless noise. They are increasingly able to tolerate silence, complexity, and unfinished becoming. They understand that wholeness is not the same as perfection. It is alignment. This level often feels quiet from the outside, but inside it is profound. A person may stop chasing what no longer fits. They may release identities that once protected them. They may stop performing certainty and start living truthfully. That is integration. Not a performance of completion, but a sincere gathering of the soul around what is real. And when that happens, the Pleroma is no longer just a distant fullness. It becomes a living presence felt in the way you speak, choose, forgive, and endure. You are still human, but you are no longer split in the same way. The 7th level is not pride, it is return. The returning soul recognizes that the journey was never about becoming superior. It was about becoming whole enough to remember source without distortion. At this level, the soul stops demanding to be satisfied by what can only reflect it. It seeks union with the fullness behind all reflections. This is the level where surrender becomes strength, not collapse, but consent. The soul no longer needs every answer to feel safe. It no longer confuses control with freedom. It knows that the deepest security is not found in possession, but in alignment with what is eternal. The returning soul does not reject the world. It sees through it without contempt. It can live, love, work, and choose without mistaking any of those things for the ultimate home. This is the final recognition. The soul was never meant to remain scattered in the lower echoes. It was always drawn toward the fullness it came from. If you feel tears rising when you hear this, if your chest tightens, if your thoughts go quiet, pay attention. That may be the sign that your soul is not hearing this as information, but as remembrance. Now test yourself honestly. Where do you live most of the time? In the surface, where everything is external? In the questions, where everything is uncertain? In remembering, where the hidden feels familiar? In division, where truth and habit are still fighting? In witnessing, where awareness begins to separate you from reaction? In integration, where pieces start to align? Or in return, where the soul is learning to rest in fullness? Do not rush your answer. This is not a contest. It is a mirror. Many people move between levels depending on pain, discipline, and clarity. A person may be integrated in one area and divided in another. Another may have moments of return but spend most of life in questioning. That is normal. The point is to recognize the dominant pattern. And if your life feels like a climb, that is because it is. The soul does not ascend by pretending. It ascends by seeing, then by choosing, then by returning again and again until return becomes nature. So here is the truth. The 7 levels of the Pleroma are not here to impress you. They are here to locate you. They help you understand why you feel detached, why you hunger for depth, why certain truths wake you up, and why your soul refuses to settle for surface existence. Once you know your level, you can stop calling your journey random. If you are at the beginning, do not despise it. If you are in conflict, do not fear it. If you are remembering, honor it. If you are witnessing, strengthen it. If you are integrating, protect it. If you are returning, stay humble. Because fullness is not something you own, it is something you align with. If you want a simple way to reinforce that alignment, use affirmations to support mental change. And visit the link in the description to make your own. Many actors and legends use them because repeated intention can shape the inner state. Use that tool carefully, use it consistently, and let it support the level of soul you are ready to live from. And remember this last thing. The Pleroma is not far away. It is closer than your next breath. The question is not whether fullness exists. The question is whether you are ready to stop living as a fragment and begin your return.